My presentation. If any of you joined us for the senior parent night a couple weeks ago, this is going to be a bit of a rehash of some of the content that came up during senior parent night. I was not there to present it myself, so you got to hear directly from me. But the focus of what I'm going to talk about this evening is really focused in particular on our IB diploma program at DCI and making sure that parents and families have a clear understanding of what success means in the IB diploma program, and more specifically, how to actually support students in terms of the requirements for earning the IB diploma. So again, my name is Ezra Miller, he, him, and my email address is here on the screen, ezra.miller@dcinternationalschool.org. All right, so the first thing I want to just highlight is that last year we had about uh, 87 students who were full IB diploma candidates by the time students were sitting for exams at the end of their senior year. And 35 out of those 87 students successfully completed all the requirements to earn the IB diploma. So we're very proud of all of those students. It was about 40% of our overall total of DP candidates. And we're particularly proud because a number of those students not only earned the IB diploma, but they actually qualified for the bilingual IB diploma because of their coursework in the Spanish language and literature class they took in 11th and 12th grade. So this just gives you sort of a rundown. These are students from the previous graduating class who successfully met all the criteria, which you're going to hear a little bit more about now in order to really understand what is required, what needs to be in place for a student to successfully earn this credential by the end of their senior year at DCI. I will also name now that I am going to be delivering the presentation, so I will not be able to answer questions in the chat in the moment. I will look back at them a little bit further on, but if you have a question in the moment, just please be warned that as I'm going through the presentation, I won't be able to both go through the slides and answer questions in the chat. So please just bear with me for that. So like I said, today's focus is really about how do students actually earn the IB diploma? Because the IB has a lot of very specific rules and requirements and things that need to be in place for students to get this credential by the end of their senior year. And it is something where I don't want to downplay, like it does take a significant amount of work and effort in order to earn the IB diploma, but it's also not an impossible task. We have had many, many students over the years successfully complete the diploma program. And the more clear we are upfront about what is actually required and what needs to be in place, the better we'll be able to support all of our students in reaching this achievement by the end of their senior year. So in terms of the IB diploma, it really depends on these 9 things. So when students are taking the IB diploma program in 11th and 12th grade at DCI, all DP students take 6 DP classes. And when I say DP classes, I'm talking about like their English class, their history class, science, math, language, all of those courses. And IB, when students reach 11th and 12th grade, they offer courses at both the higher level, HL, and the standard level, SL. So all DP candidates take at least 3 higher level courses, and all DP candidates take at least 2 standard level courses. The sixth class can be higher level or standard level depending. So we have some students who really push themselves and attempt 4 higher level classes. Some students stick with just the requirement for 3 higher levels and then do 3 standard levels. So for those 6 classes that students take, they sit for exams at the end of their senior year and they get a final score from IB on the 1 to 7 scale for those subjects. And that's part of what determines their eligibility for the IB diploma. And then the other core elements of the diploma program that influence a student's achievement are their performance in the Theory of Knowledge TOK class, their performance on the extended essay, which is an independent research project that they conduct over the course of junior and senior year, and then also their completion of CAS, Creativity, Activity, and Service, which is like the extracurricular component to IB. So these 9 elements come together and this is what determines if a student qualifies for the IB diploma or not. More specifically, what we're looking for to earn the IB diploma, a student needs to have, first and foremost, the attempt for all of the assessments for all of their courses. So what we've seen is that the number one thing that can stop a student from earning the IB diploma is if they either do not show up for one of their IB exams at the end of senior year, or if they fail to complete one of the other assessment tasks that they do over the course of the 2 years. So every class has internal assessments in addition to exams they take at the end. And the first and most important thing is that students have to be willing to make an attempt for every assessment. Because if a student skips an exam or does not do their internal assessment, they automatically get a grade of N for that subject instead of a grade of 1 through 7. And even just a single N on their transcript will automatically stop them from getting the IB diploma, regardless of how they perform in all of their other classes. To get the IB diploma, a student needs to earn 24 points from their assessments in whichever 6 DP classes that they're taking. So, like I mentioned before, based on the exams they take at the end of their senior year and their internal assessments, students will earn a grade of 1 through 7 for all of their classes. And this is different from like the report card grade that they get on Toddle. This is a grade of 1 through 7 determined primarily by the exams they take at the end of senior year. So for 6 DP classes, they need to have at least 24 points, which means if students earned a 4 on their exams for every single subject, that would qualify them for the IB diploma. More specifically, though, students need to have at least 12 out of those 24 points have to come from 3 of their higher level classes. So IB does put a little bit more emphasis on whichever classes a student takes at the higher level. So at least 12 out of 24 points need to come from higher level coursework specifically. In addition to the points that students earn from the exams they take at the end of senior year, they also need to pass their assessments for theory of knowledge, TOK, with a grade of D or higher. So TOK and the extended essay are both graded on a scale of A through E instead of 1 through 7. They have their own separate rubrics that are used to determine the grade boundaries. But students have to earn passing grades for their TOK exhibition and their TOK essay, and they have to get at least a D with those grades combined to qualify for the IB diploma. Similarly, they need at least a D for their work on the extended essay, which is the independent research paper that they write over the course of junior and senior year. And then they also need to complete all of the requirements for the Creativity Activity Service program. So for CAS, what we expect is that students should be engaged in some creative pursuits outside of school. They should be engaged in some active pursuits, like things related to like physical exertion, exercise, or athletics. And then they also need to participate in some service experiences outside of school as well, which aligns really well with the community service requirement that's already in place from OSSE for students to graduate. So it lines up with the CAS component of the IB diploma. So those are the things that have to be true in order for a student to get the IB diploma by the end of their senior year. TOK and extended essay, which again are 2 of like the core elements of the diploma program, these things are really, really, really important because if a student is successful in TOK and the extended essay, that can get them bonus points toward those 24 points they need for the IB diploma. So as I mentioned before, extended essay and TOK are both graded on an A through E scale instead of 1 through 7. If a student got A's in both TOK and extended essay, they could get up to 3 bonus points toward their IB diploma out of those 24 that they need for the diploma. However, as we see, again, if they got an E, which is a failing grade on either extended essay or TOK, that would automatically disqualify them from earning the IB diploma. So a question that comes up a lot from students and from families then is this assumption of like, do I need to pass all of my exams to earn the IB diploma? Sorry, Mr. Donovan, were you about to jump in with something? Okay. So students often ask, do I need to pass all of my exams at the end of senior year in order to qualify for the IB diploma? Because this is something that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety for our students as they're going through all of the coursework throughout the 2 years and getting ready for these exams they take in April and May of their senior year. And the answer is no. Students do not need to pass exams for every single subject to earn the IB diploma. It's something that I think is really important for students and families to understand because you do not have to be perfect to be successful in the IB diploma program. It is not realistic for us to expect that every student needs to be amazing in every single class and every single subject that they take. A student can have certain classes that they struggle in, classes where they might not perform at quite as high a level on their exams at the end of their senior year, and they can still earn the IB diploma even if they have lower scores for certain subjects. What's most important is not that you pass every subject, but that you are willing to make the attempt for every subject. You have to be willing to try for all of the exams. But IB understands in the way they built the requirements and the way they built the rules, you don't have to be good at every single thing. You have to make an effort, and the things that you're naturally stronger in or more confident in can balance out certain subjects that might be more of a challenge for you. So this is something we will often tell students where like if they're really worried about how they might perform in their language class, but they know they're really strong in English and in history, a high score in one or two subjects can balance out a lower score in a different subject. So really important, success in the IB diploma program does not mean being perfect at every single thing. It means being willing to try and knowing that the things you're really strong in can balance out the things that you might have more difficulty with. Again, what's required is just this list I went over before. Attempt all the assessments, get at least 24 points from your assessments and exams in those six classes, at least 12 points from your three higher level classes, pass TOK, pass extended essay, and complete CAS. Nowhere here is it required that you need to do at least a four or better in every single subject that you take. We have students every year who might get a three or even a two in one of their classes, and they can still qualify for the IB diploma as long as they do better in other subject areas. But there is no requirement, no expectation from IB that you have to achieve at a certain level in every single subject. It's all about being well-rounded, and the things that you are really strong in can balance out things that might be more of a challenge. So another question that we get a lot from students and from families is like, what's even the point of taking these IB exams? The IB diploma is especially significant for a student who might be considering going outside of the US for college or university. It is often a requirement for admissions at certain European and Canadian colleges. But even if a student is not planning on going international for college, there is still a ton of value in taking these IB exams at the end of senior year. So the most important thing is that the IB exams are an opportunity for students to earn college credit based on the coursework they've completed at DCI. Every college and university has a slightly different policy in terms of what courses they'll give credit for, what scores a student might need for certain higher level or standard level subjects. But even if a student doesn't necessarily meet all the requirements to earn the full IB diploma in the diploma program, they can still likely earn college credit for individual courses they're taking if they're successful on exams at the end of senior year. We have had many, many, many cases where a student might fall a couple points shy of the diploma, but they still get credit from their college or university if they've been successful in exams for certain subjects. So earning college credit is sort of the first and most immediate benefit of taking the exams. But it's not just about earning credit, it also is a great opportunity for students to save money on the cost of tuition. If you're able to enter college having already bypassed certain entry level courses, if you've already been able to place out of certain requirements, it can really bring down the cost of college, which is a huge benefit to being an IB student at DCI. And not only are they saving time, but it's also a chance for kids to save, sorry, not just save money, but also to save time. Because what we hate to see is if a student graduates from DCI and if they don't attempt the exams, they can very well end up taking a class in college that covers kind of the same content they already spent 2 years learning in 11th and 12th grade. We want our students to graduate to earn credit to be able to bypass classes that are covering content they learned in 11th and 12th. So not only do they save money, but they can also save the time in college and not have to sit through a class covering stuff they already learned. And one thing I do want to emphasize is that even if students are not planning on heading directly to college after DCI, if they're planning to go straight into the workforce, the military, apprenticeships programs, um, the credits they can earn from IB exams can still be applied in the future. So we still expect all of our students at DCI to sit for the IB exams. Even if they're not immediately planning on college or university, we want them to have that option in their back pocket where maybe a few years down the line, plans might change. They might want to pursue a degree. The IB credits will stick around. They don't expire. So we want to make sure that every student at DCI sits for exams and has this opportunity that they get, which DCI, it's really critical part of our IB for all mission that we want all kids to have this chance. One thing that's important to note is that we do expect, as part of IB for All, if a student is taking DP classes in 11th and 12th grade, we do want them to complete all of the assessment tasks and to sit for the exams in that subject. So if you are a parent of seniors and you want to check out, there's a bit.ly link here, or there's a QR code you could scan from your screen. But you can see the exam schedule for the end of this year in April and May if you want to get a clear sense of like all of the exams and when they're happening. We will, of course, make sure that in future years, as we get the dates for exams, we will make sure that this is shared proactively. But one thing to note is that IB, unlike AP, is very, very rigid about the dates that exams are offered. IB does not do makeup dates for exams. So it's really, really important for students to be present and to attempt those exams on the days that they're scheduled. Because IB says if you miss an exam, unless it's for a really, really good reason, like you're sick and have medical documentation, or God forbid, if there's a death in the family, anything outside of that, IB basically tells us you can try again next year. So there are no makeup dates for these exams. So it's really, really important as we think about success in the diploma program. The first and biggest part of that success is you got to show up and you got to make the attempt on these exams. And then broadly speaking, when we think about like what are the necessary steps for students to keep themselves on track, what we want to be true for our students so that they can be successful in their classes and ultimately earn the IB diploma, it's a fairly straightforward list, but it's something we really want to make sure we're all aligned in terms of what we're looking for and what we're expecting from our kids. So the first and most important thing is that students need to come to school every day. We know that some students and families might live a little bit farther from campus. We know that getting to school isn't necessarily easy for everyone, but it is really, really, really critical for students to be here and to be present every day because it's hard to master the material for these college level courses if you're not actually in class to learn the content. So coming to school every day is critical. Coming to school on time is even better. If students are consistently late to class by 10, 15 minutes, that really adds up over the course of 2 years. So we want to make sure that not only are we supporting our kids to be in school every day, we want them to be in school and in their classes on time so they can take advantage of every single minute they have with their teacher to be prepared for those exams they take at the end of their senior year. And they got to be present mentally, not just physically, my body is there, I'm in the classroom. But students really need to be thinking, using their minds, taking notes, engaging during class. So it's not just a matter of being in the building or at school, but students really have to take advantage of the time they have with their teachers. So be present mentally, not just physically in the building. It's really important for students to do the work that is assigned, to do the work that's assigned in the class as coursework. If there is homework assigned outside of school, those are really important opportunities for students to practice and to develop those skills, to do the reading for some of the humanities-based courses. So it is really critical for students to be successful on exams at the end of senior year. They have to consistently be doing the work assigned by their teachers. And part of that is also asking teachers for help. The work is not easy. It takes serious effort to be successful in these classes, but teachers are here to support. So students should be consistently reaching out to their teachers, attending office hours and tutoring hours, but making sure that as they are working to develop these skills and to master this content, to make sure they're leaning on the adults at DCI who want to see them succeed. So being proactive about attending tutoring, scheduling appointments during office hours, that's really, really critical for success. As I mentioned earlier, the higher level classes that students take are kind of the most important in the IB diploma program. Because remember, we said at least 12 out of 24 points a student needs for the IB diploma have to come from those higher level classes. So putting in a little extra effort into HL classes is really, really critical because those higher levels, those are the classes also that students are most likely to earn college credit for in an HL course. So the higher level classes need a little bit more time, a little bit more effort in order for a student to keep themselves on track. But most importantly, at the end of the day, to consistently try is the critical thing. The only way a student can really disqualify themselves from the IB diploma, the only way to guarantee that they won't be successful is if they give up. So the most critical thing is that they are consistently showing up, consistently trying. We have a lot of adults in the building at DCI who want to see our kids succeed. We have a lot of adults who are here to offer support. I'm here, Mr. Donovan is here, all of the teachers are here, but students need to be able to make the effort to show up, to attempt the work, because the moment they give up, the moment they say, oh, well, I'm just not going to complete that internal assessment or I'm not going to show up for that exam, that is really the only way that they can guarantee that they won't be successful in the program. So that is sort of my big picture overview. I'm now going to take a moment. I'm going to look at some of the questions that are in the chat. I know Mr. Donovan was answering some kind of as we went through.
Did you see the last question, Mr. Miller? It says, are there other ninth grade parents as lost as I feel right now? Imagining it's not just because they joined 10 minutes late. Is this all written down in the handbook and missed it? Is there like a one-on-one presentation? This material is many steps beyond my current understanding.
So, one of the things I will share is that this presentation is very, very much geared toward sort of when students are in 11th and 12th grade is when we tend to deliver this type of presentation to give real clarity. If you are a parent of a younger student, we do have another version of this presentation that goes into a little bit more of the specifics of like what are the classes students will take in the diploma program versus career program. We have a sort of more intro level version of the presentation that we'll be doing another set of sessions, I believe in December. Is that right,
December.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes, December.
In December, we'll be doing another round of sessions that are geared a little bit more toward MYP families about understanding the two programs and understanding what are students signing up for if they pick DP versus CP. So we will be doing sessions a little bit later in the year that are going to have a slightly broader audience to help MYP families better understand what's expected in 11th and 12th grade and how students make the selection of whether they're going to do the IB diploma program or the IB career related program.
And I'll be sure to share those dates in the email. Well, we've shared it already with families, but I'll definitely remind you all in the email once I follow up sharing the recording and the presentation as well.
Cool. I'm going to tag in now for the CP version of this. I think the first thing I'll say though is that all of the, like Mr. Miller did about 70% of my job for me in the sense that all of the tips about how to be successful in the coursework and in your classes is exactly the same, right? Because remember, students in CP, they're still taking DP English, DP Math, DP Science, DP History, and DP French, Spanish, or Chinese, right? So to be successful in those classes, it's the same, right? Students from both programs are combined, right? In English classes at DCI, about half the kids are DP students, half the kids are CP students. They're in the same English class, they're in the same history class, chemistry, biology, physics class, right? Spanish, French, Chinese class. So all of those tips about how to be successful in those classes still apply. The slight difference is that to earn the certification from IB, the culminating piece of paper, is a little different. And so I'll just go through what you have to do as a student to earn those things. First, the CP program actually only requires that students take 2 diploma classes. We are an IB for all school though, so we make all of our kids take 5. Because why not do the thing that is challenging to prepare you for your life after school? So as far as earning the certification, you actually only need to pass 2 of your 5 DP classes. That is a very attainable bar. Like that's not even really a bar that I spend a lot of time thinking about with students because of, like Mr. Miller said, the college credit, right, that you can get for doing much, much better than this in many more classes. It's the case that at a minimum, you need to pass 2 of your courses with a 3 or higher. Then the CP version of CAS is called service learning. Right now it is, for the new cohort, it's called community engagement. And that is doing service work related to your community. You work on it in a class and it is graded by us internally, just like CAS is graded by us. Then your career-related studies course. So we have our 4 pathways. We have engineering, computer science, media production, or health sciences. So CP students, if you're in one of those pathways, you must, of course, pass the courses in that pathway. It is the career-related studies program after all, so you do need to pass the courses in that pathway. Then the core class for CP is called Personal and Professional Skills. That's the counterpart to Theory of Knowledge. You need to pass that course as well, based on your grade from DCI. And then the essay that students write in our program is called the Reflective Project. It's an ethical analysis of an ethical issue in the career field you're interested in. So like, should we be allowed to sell organs? Like, should AI run everything if you're computer science? What should media networks cover or not cover if you're in media? That kind of thing. That's the equivalent to the extended essay on the diploma side. And again, you have to earn a passing mark on that essay. And we alluded to this already, but like, you only need to pass 2 for the CP cert, but every single DP course students are in could potentially earn them college credit. So we expect students to take them all, give it their best. I put it in the chat, but normally scores of 4 or higher give you a pretty good shot at getting college credit. Depends on the school, depends on whether you took a higher level or standard level, but 4s and up, you've got a real chance at some free money. And we really want our students to have access to that free money. Unique to CP also, your career-related studies course often has a sort of industry certification or special separate college credit thing associated with just that pathway. So like health sciences students, for example, will get CPR, AED, and first aid certified for both adults and for infants. We are looking into getting stuff with EMT as well. It's kind of more complicated laws, but we're working on it. If you're in engineering, you can get credits specifically for engineering. If you want to then do engineering in college, our coursework gets you college credit for engineering. Computer science, we actually use College Board classes, AP, so you can get college credit for coding. And then in the media pathway, there's no exam for media, but students build their portfolio of all the media they've made in audio and video production classes. And if you're going to school for audio or video production, or you want to work in industry, that is actually what you show when you're getting hired. So our kids will say, I've made Dragon TV. There's 48 episodes of Dragon TV online. You can see them all. They show off their skills that way. And so similarly to the DP advice, each of these things is absolutely attainable for students as long as they are able to stay present and stay sort of committed to those things. And they use the support that's around them. I think Mr. Miller's advice on how to be a successful student in grade 11, 12 applies perfectly and exactly no matter what program you're in. And so that is it as far as I have. It's slightly less complicated to earn the cert, and so my bit is shorter. But I can again open up. I'll take a peek at the chat, and I can also answer questions about CP, or either of us can take questions about either program.
So there have been a number of questions in the chat trying to get more context about the process by which students make their choice of diploma program or career program. So Mr. Donovan and I, around the beginning of the second semester, so late January, we visit every single 10th grade English class at DCI, and we do a presentation directly to students in those courses where we talk about what are the classes that everyone is required to take, regardless of which program they do, and then what are the unique elements of the DP versus CP. So we visit all of the classes. And then we also do corresponding parent info sessions around that time of year as well. Usually there will be like a 10th grade parent night where we'll deliver the same presentation we give to students for parents and families. And then students typically have about 2 to 3 weeks after we visit the classes to then review their options. We encourage students to talk with parents and families about what classes they're considering and why. And then Mr. Donovan and I meet with every single 10th grader one-on-one to review the classes that they're selecting and make sure that they fit with the requirements for either the IB diploma or the IB career-related program. So we visit all the 10th grade classes and then we meet individually with every student over the course of the next 3 weeks or so. In terms of parent involvement in those conversations, because we're meeting with students during the school day, we don't typically have parents like come into the building to be with their student to make those choices. But we are very much available and we will be in touch with all 10th grade families when we're starting that process. So if you have questions or concerns related to your child's courses that they're interested in, the requirements of DP versus CP. We are very happy to meet on Zoom or Google Meet, or just talk on the phone to go over with you the options that your student might be considering, things you might want to take into account depending on if your student already has ideas about what they might want to do after high school. That can influence some of their choices about which program, which classes, which higher level versus standard level courses. So even though we don't have parents in the one-on-one meetings that we do with students, if you reach out to us, we are more than happy to schedule a meeting with you at whatever time is convenient based on your schedule, our schedule. If possible, we'll try to bring a student in for those like Zoom or Google Meet meetings, because we do want to make sure that parents are involved in those decisions and that your student is thinking about their options not just in a silo by themselves, but that they're also discussing with you, because the classes that they pick can have real benefits in terms of their post-secondary planning. So it's really, really helpful for families to be involved in some of the thinking and decision making about that. And the document we give kids where they start to enter their choices, the very first thing it says at the top, like highlighted in bright yellow, is to please share the document with a parent, guardian, family member, someone outside of school, because we don't want students to be making those decisions completely in isolation.
There was a great question in the chat from the Modi family about like the letters and like the different bits of core for each of the two programs. I was wondering, I can type it out, and then also like we have sort of infographic-y things that we could project. I'm thinking maybe the slides we show students. That doesn't have a side by side though. It just has all the DP things and then all the CP things. I'll verbalize it now and then and put it in the chat, but everybody takes 5 DP classes no matter what. Then DP students take a 6th DP class. CP students take their career-related studies class. Right? That's the main decision factor for students, right? Do they want their 6th class to be something like art, film, psychology, a third language, global politics? There's a whole list there on the DP side. Or do they want their 6th class to be one of our career-related studies pathways, engineering, computer science, media, or health? Then both programs have a core class. In DP, it's called Theory of Knowledge. And in CP, it's called Personal and Professional Skills. And then both programs write a long essay. In the diploma program, it's called the extended essay. And in the career program, it's called the reflective project. They're both long form essays. And then both programs have a sort of service and holistic person besides school component. That's called CAS in DP, creativity, action, and service. And on the CP, it's called community engagement. Those are the side-by-sides. A lot of acronyms, a lot of letters. We have some graphics that we can share out that condense that into a shorter form. Oh, and the thing in the chat about future, like alumni, current students. So we absolutely do that for the kids. So when we're talking to the 10th graders, we bring the seniors in to talk about like what, what's your life like? How did you make your choice, and et cetera, et cetera. And we've had alums do stuff like that for staff and pre-service, but that is a really good point to see if we can get them onto things like this, because we've got plenty of alums now. I bet one of them would show up on a Zoom if we asked for it.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion, Sarah. I'll definitely keep that in mind for future sessions.
We can bring students up, yeah. Great question about leveling. So for HL/SL, right, all DP classes come at higher level or standard level. A higher level class is all of the standard level class plus some extra. There's extra content, so you have to go a little bit faster, right? And so we do not like gatekeep entry into a higher level class. If a student wants to do it, like they can do it. For subjects like math and second language, we do have a sort of recommended pathway based on the class you were currently in. So like if you've only been at DCI since 9th grade and you started French in 9th grade, you probably shouldn't go into highest level French as a junior because you've only been taking it for 2 years, right? Versus students who've taken it for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, right? And then for math, we sort of say, look, based on how much you really like math and your performance level and your investment level, there's levels to the math classes you might want to consider, right? Your skill set, but it is ultimately student choice. Like we want to present the options for students and we want them to make a reasonable decision, but no one's barred from entry. we just want to make sure that kids think about what it'll mean if they take a higher level class. And there's also a limit to how many you can take. You can only take 4 no matter what, because IB also cares about students being balanced and having, health and sanity. And so even the most go-getter student out there can only take 4 HL classes, and that is plenty.
And in terms of, again, reiterating what Mr. Donovan was saying, students ultimately do get to choose which classes they want to pursue at higher level versus standard level. We do also encourage students to speak with their teachers in 10th grade when they're making their selection about what might be the best fit class in terms of what they want to do for 10th grade. So we do want to respect student agency as one of our pillars at DCI. We want students to have the autonomy to make those choices for their education, as opposed to saying, oh, well, you're not allowed to take the higher level version of this class. And we want to make sure that they're making those choices in a really informed way where they're clear about like what are the expectations for the higher level versus standard level version of the class. So we try to set up opportunities where they can reach out to the 11th and 12th grade teachers to get a clearer understanding of the syllabus and of the curriculum. We bring in like Mr. Donovan was saying, we bring in current students, usually seniors in the two programs, to talk some about like what classes they picked and why. And then we do encourage them to get recommendations from their teachers, especially for math and science. But for all of the subject areas, we do want students talking to parents and family members at home. We also want them talking to their teachers, those who know their academic performance best, to help them. Again, the choice is still theirs to make, but to get enough of a variety of perspectives so that they're making an informed decision about which classes they want to pursue once they reach 11th and 12th grade. So in terms of the exams that students take at the end of their senior year, the highest possible score for IB exams would be 7. So I know in MYP we talk about rubrics that go all the way up to 8, but for DP and CP, 7 is the maximum highest score. So when we look at, again, before we were talking about every student takes in the diploma program 6 classes. So the highest score they could get when you total everything together for their exams would be 42 points from those courses. Plus, they could get up to an additional 3 bonus points from success on TOK and extended essay. So, like the maximum possible score a student could get if they do phenomenally well in every single subject area would be 45 points total. And the requirement to get the diploma, again, is only 24 points.
I'll voice over. I was half typing this, but I'll say it out loud as well. University perception of the two programs. So it depends a little bit, like we said, on if you want to go to school in America or in other places, right? So first, focusing on the American context, students are accepted into university based on their grades and the classes they have taken. And because we have our students in CP take all 5 diploma classes, like their transcripts look very similar, right? So everybody's taking English, history, math, science, French, Spanish, or Chinese at diploma level. And then the big difference between a DP and a CP student's transcript is theory of knowledge versus personal professional skills, right? And then a 6th DP class versus one of our career-related studies classes. And like, I don't think we could, with any blanket statement, say that, media production or psychology is harder or easier than the other, or health sciences or global politics, or, like they're just different. And so, but they're, rigorous classes, one and the same. And so, that part really doesn't make much of a difference. Going abroad. Oh, and then sorry, the credit that most American universities give, it's not about like, did you get the full DP or the full CP cert? Most schools, it's a la carte. So if you got a 5 in English, you get credit in English, right? And that's possible for students in either program. And that credit earning happens well after they've already been accepted, right? Students get accepted in January, February through April of their senior year. They take the exams in May. So the exam stuff is all icing on the cake after the fact. For international schools, it is a little different. Like if you're considering wanting to go internationally, that is great, but you should look very specifically at that school's website for admissions for foreign students, because they will not only sometimes say you need DP or CP, but they will say you need to take these specific classes and get scores of this high in these particular things. Because especially in Europe, you are essentially declaring your major when you apply to school. And so if you want to study, pre-medical at, I don't know, Oxford or King's College London or something, they're going to say to get in here as a foreigner, you need to take these specific classes. You need to take higher level DP science. You need to take higher level math. You might need to take two sciences, right? And it's tough because students have to pick their program in 10th grade when they're maybe not so sure about what they want to do for university. But we would just recommend if you think you're even kind of interested in going abroad, that you start looking at those websites just to make sure that the school you're interested in doesn't have some really, really narrow expectation that is hard to meet. Like we will help you meet that expectation, but we want to try and know from the beginning what that might be.
So in
We
terms of the timeline for program selection, Mr. Donovan and I will start meeting with students in their 10th grade English classes in January, and then they usually make their choices by midway through February. But we'll start parent info sessions, including our next round of Café Charla sessions in December. So we will start doing those sessions that are a little more narrowly focused on the specific requirements for DP versus CP, what's the same, what's different. We'll begin some of the parent sessions for that in December. And then we meet with students initially to talk about the programs in January, and then they make their choices in February of 10th grade.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any other questions. We don't necessarily have to use the chat right now. So if there are any other questions, either put it in the chat or unmute yourself. Up to you. There's a question that says, so universities abroad will look at the total exam points, 24 minimum out of 45, whereas US universities do not.
Yeah, so American colleges and universities make admissions decisions well before the release of IB exams. So students don't actually find out their scores on exams and whether or not they've earned the IB diploma until July after they've already graduated. Scores typically come out like just after July 4th. So American colleges and universities are not going to factor in IB exam scores into admissions. IB exam scores for American, the US colleges and universities are really just determining the credits they might earn. For colleges outside of the US, especially some of the European colleges, they will usually offer like conditional acceptance to students where they say, based on your academic profile, based on your application materials, your recommendations, we think that you're a good fit for this school. So we're going to conditionally accept you, but we need to see by the time IB exam scores are released, we're going to look to see that you've earned at least 30 points out of the 45 maximum. So some of those European colleges and universities will say that they're not only looking for the IB diploma, but they're looking more specifically for a certain number of points totaled together from exams. And that varies depending not year by year, I'm sorry, that varies depending school by school and program by program, what those specific requirements might be. But American colleges and universities have made admissions decisions, finalized admissions decisions before students even know their performance on the IB exams.
Great question about like examples of our CP coursework and sort of how they are tagged. Some of the perceptions of what CP is rooted in an earlier conception of it being like this is for people who don't go to college, it's vocational. We have picked pathways where if you study them, you can go direct to work. Though in our area that nobody really does that because the labor market is so highly educated. But also you can pursue it in 4-year school. So like to take computer science for an example, and sorry, our pathways in these CTE areas are sort of vetted by the state. They're not just random things that we do for fun. Like we have a lot of rules about what the coursework needs to be to meet that appropriate bar of rigor so that it's treated with proper seriousness. So we have principles of computer science, and then we do AP computer science principles and AP computer science Java in the computer science pathway, right? Those are all courses that can get you college credit in programming, right? As you take them. In engineering, the classes are slightly more boring names. It's just numbers, engineering 1, 2, 3, right? But we start with principles of engineering, UX, user engineering design, and then robotics as a specialization at the end. So kids on our competitive teams, we're building robots in class. Media, the classes are also just called 1, 2, 3, 4. But starts out with simple media production, and by the end, students are producing a full TV show, and then they're also making product that gets shared externally. So student reporting labs, we've had kids work air on PBS, we've had kids win all sorts of external competitions. Health sciences, the coursework names you might recognize because they sort of align with pre-med kind of things. So we have a principles of class that introduces students to the structure of the healthcare industry and various career options within. And then we do anatomy and physiology, and a scaled down version of the course you would do in college if you want to be a pre-med. And then a practicum class in clinical skills. So we basically teach kids the clinical skills that we legally are allowed to teach, given that they're not 18 yet and that we're not doctors officially, and we're not a training hospital, but reading sonograms, ultrasound, setting broken bones, stitching, CPR, first aid, that kind of thing. And we've consulted with Aussie a lot on how to make sure the titles of our coursework indicate the sort of rigor of the courses so that college folks are seeing them as valuable. The most common thing that CP students want to do when they leave our program is to continue doing something kind of connected to their CP thing in college. And so having, like, to them, it's not a detriment at all. It actually shows the admissions officers that, oh, you say you want to go here because you're interested in studying medicine or healthcare. And look, you've already taken classes in that in high school. It actually shows investment and commitment. So we have not had any problem with college admissions sort of favoring one program over the other. Kids just usually are interested in studying different things, and that's okay.
There's another question. It says, what is the average points of the 35 students who recently earned their IB diplomas, or the average points in general?
Sure. So, of the 35 students last year who earned the IB diploma, the average total number of points for those students was 28 points. But the highest score we had last year, we had a student who earned 36 out of the 45 possible points. And again, that's based on their success for the exams for 6 subjects, plus bonus points they can earn if they're successful in the extended essay and the TOK essay. So again, the overall average for last year's class was a little bit above 28 points, and the highest score last year was 36 points total.
There any other questions? Feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself. There a question came up that says, has the number of students who have earned the IB diploma increased each year?
So we found it varies year by year. Every cohort of students is unique, has a different range of strengths and skill sets that they bring to the table. So we haven't necessarily seen linear growth every year, although we are performing at a higher level than we did the first year that we offered IB exams, even though DCI's had the IB diploma program since our first graduating class in 2020. The pandemic disrupted exams for the first several years. So compared to the first year that we offered exams, which was the class of 2023, we have seen we performed higher than that. I forget what the number was off the top of my head, but we've performed better than that every year. But it's not always a guarantee of just increased linear growth because every cohort of students is different. Different classes have different, profiles, different personalities. So it's not necessarily just been a steady linear increase year over year.
And I will add, just because your parents, you can maybe remind your students about this. We took a little bit of a hit this past year because the internet got really good at writing essays for kids, like in the middle of last school year, right? And kids got exposed to that and realized that that was a thing that could be done. And so we had an unfortunate, small but significant in the percentage kind of situation, group of kids who were feeling stressed, asked the internet to write their essays for them, and then because if you don't pass your essay, like that's it, like it's you're done, right? There were some kids that kind of disqualified themselves from the full certification just because of that terminal essay, or an IA in a class, right? Leaning into ChatGPT. So we are doing a lot more with students proactively this year to be like, this is how you can use it. This is when you should not use it whatsoever. And so as parents of young folks that are learning what AI can and can't do, if you can try and reinforce with them at home, like if it's, you know, if this is a thing that needs to be fully your own, like please make sure that it's fully your own, right? Or if you're not sure if you're allowed to use internet stuff for whatever, ask your teacher, they'll tell you. That is a support that parents can provide because you're watching them at home writing the essay and you can maybe catch if they're having Claude do it for them.
In terms of comparison between student performance at DCI versus other IB schools, there isn't really a direct one-to-one comparison that we can make because DCI's IB program looks very different. Because we're an IB for all institution, it means every single student at DCI is completing either the IB diploma program or the IB career-related program. Whereas in many other schools that offer the IB, it is presented as a more selective academic experience. So many schools, including I worked in Prince George's County, just outside of DC before I came to DCI 8 years ago. And we had a program where you had to meet certain GPA requirements, you had to meet certain testing requirements in order to even be able to take IB classes. So looking at our results compared to other schools, it there isn't a direct comparison because no other school in the region is doing it quite like we do it at DCI. We're really committed to the open accessibility of our IB programming. We don't have any gatekeeping or restrictions that stop students from completing coursework for either the diploma program or the career-related program. But that also means that because we have many, many more students pursuing the courses and the academic profile of a DCI student might not look the same as the profile of a student who's in a more selective program or more selective institution. We can't draw direct parallels between what DCI is doing with IB and what other schools are doing.
I saw a good question in the chat about younger student, grade 6, and hearing about a CP pathway, like how could my student try that out or get in? Señora, esa la pregunta sobre la carrera de medicina, yeah. So we have intro versions of the CP courses in ninth grade and 10th grade, and even a little bit in middle school too. So we want kids to try them out when they're younger so that they can then make an informed choice. So all of the level 1 classes in all of our pathways, if you have 9th or 10th grade students, you may realize that they're in them now. So computer science 1, health science 1, audio video production 1, engineering 1. Those are, students take them in 9th grade, 10th grade to try things out. And in middle school, we have a design class that combines elements of all of the classes, and they do some medical stuff in science class as well in grades 6, 7, 8, just so kids get a taste.
There was a question, I don't know if you answered it. Could you explain again how the 36 total marks break down between 6 courses?
I'm putting that in the chat now. It's a lot to voice over, but I'll drop that in the chat.
Gotcha.
Yeah, great questions, y'all.
All right, we have 3 more minutes. If there are any other questions that you all would like to ask, says, can we reach out to you all directly if we have additional questions, or do we need to wait until the next session?
I just put my email in the chat. Go for it. About either program, both of us can speak pretty freely about either one. We'll pass questions back and forth if there's things that we're not sure about. But yeah, anytime.
And as I mentioned at the beginning, I'll be sure to share this this session is being recorded, so I'll share the recording with you all, but I'll also be able to share the presentations that were shown today with you all by the end of the week.
And I just dropped my email in the chat as well. And again, we are more than happy if you have questions you want to email, if you want to set up an individual Zoom or Google Meet with either me or Mr. Donovan. We are happy to speak with you about this. Again, this session was geared a little bit more toward the 11th, 12th grade experience, but we are happy to speak with families, parents of any grade level, if you have questions more specifically about sort of wherever your student might be in the process, whatever might be coming up. Please reach out to us by email, and then we're happy to either communicate on email or arrange a call, a digital meeting, an in-person meeting if we need. We want to make sure that you have the support and the resources you need for your child's education at DCI.
Bueno.
Bueno. All right. Well, if there are any questions, thank you very much, Mr. Miller, Mr. Donovan, y
Thank you.
Octavio por traducir.
Yeah.
All righty, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.